Hey, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Welcome to our weekly call. We are in the process of walking through the 17 Laws of Teamwork. It's a John Maxwell book. It's been a really good, as I said last week, refresher. I think we know a lot of these things, but it's always good to spend some time, some intentional time, kind of focusing on them and maybe asking ourselves some of these difficult questions. How does this apply to me? You guys know I've been with you all here at Red Earth now for the better part of a year and a half, and I am all about focusing on how we can continually and constantly improve ourselves, both in our personal lives, our professional lives, every aspect of our lives. One of my favorite things that we say is a balloon with a hole is no longer a balloon. And so relate that to your own life. If there's a hole in one area of your life and you're losing air, you're not going to be able to stay filled and be that balloon, be that whole individual. And so we focus here on that dynamic of holistic growth. It's personal, it's professional, it is emotional, it is physical, it is spiritual, it's all the above. And so that's why we're here, that's why we do these calls. We've been walking through this teamwork thing because I think it's very healthy for us to remind ourselves that we are part of a team. We know that in the individual communities we represent, but we also are part of a greater team, and that is the Red Earth team. And so today is going to be a little bit of a recap, kind of a back to basics on what the Red Earth mission statement is, who we are as an organization, and it's all tied into the law of identity. So the 13th law in the 17 laws is the law of identity. This is a massive thing for me because our organization, Uprint, focuses on identity development. That's what we do with the majority of the organizations and individuals that we work with, really helping them understand their identity, discover their identity, develop that identity, and then live that identity out. A lot of times we see people who have false identities. These are the false selves. Maybe they feel a need to be kind of a part of a team or a community, and so they kind of play the game. And if they want to make friends, they join the country club. They're not really country club people, but they're doing that because they want to belong, and so they put on these false identities. It's funny. I've shared with you guys my first book that I wrote, Read, Define, Rich. Was really about my journey of discovering the true wealth and so forth. I had a second book proposal that I ran to a bunch of different publishing companies, and everyone said the same thing. They said, great idea, but you're not famous enough. And so that's the world of traditional publishing, is you've got to have this massive platform or something like that. And so the second book never got written, but it's a talk that I've given multiple times. And the idea is it's called No Capes. NOCAPES, No Capes. And it comes from early in my career. I was getting some business coaching from a guy who used to be involved with Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a kind of a personality. He's out of Tennessee. He does financial teaching and training. He's got a massive radio show, kind of like top 5 radio programs in the country. But Dave Ramsey looked at this kid before this guy had branched out on his own, and he said, tuck in your cape, Superman. And so that was his way of telling this bravado kid, tuck in your cape, Superman, like hold your horses. And the guy said it to me, and it was really impactful because I realized that there was this underlying ego thing where you thought you're Superman, right? I can do this, I've got this. And then as I began to process that, it's like, why even wear a cape? Why even wear a cape? And a lot of times the capes we wear were these false identities, at least for me. I had my dad cape. So when I go home, I'm trying to be like Super Dad. I'm doing puzzles and I'm singing silly songs and things like this. But then I also had my professional cape, where I was an insurance salesman and I was the top in our company, and I had to, always play it right with our clients and with our corporate office, and then I had my husband cape. Where I had my wife and I had to make sure I got her flowers. I had to make sure I helped around the house, and then I had kind of the friend cape or the son cape. I got to be there for my parents. I got to be there for my siblings, my family, all this kind of stuff. Then I had my church cape. It's like, oh, I'm a church guy today. And what I realized is that wearing all of these different capes was exhausting. And so instead of trying to put on these false identities of yourself, take the cape off and just be who you were created and called to be. And so that is your truest identity. Now, that's kind of my personal testimony about my journey to remove these capes and just simply be Matt. And I have a lot of different roles and a lot of different responsibilities, but it all comes from the same heart and the same place. And I cannot compartmentalize myself and try to juggle all of these plates, try to wear all these different hats, try to wear all these different capes, because it was inauthentic. That's the personal side of this. On the corporate side of this, identity is extremely important. And I would say it's just as important as it is individually. Now, what drives our identity are the values that we carry and the gifts that we have. Okay? Your identity individually is driven by the values that you have. That's your belief systems, your structures, how you interact, and the gifts that you have, how you actually live that out. The same is true of an organization. An organization's identity is going to be driven by the values that it has. What do we think like? People like us do this. In fact, you want to write that down. I would say that is one of the most powerful statements when it comes to identity, corporate identity. People like us do this. I remember there was a baseball team here in my hometown, New Hanover High School here in Wilmington, and they won back-to-back state championships in 93 and 94. Their key player was a guy named Trot Nixon, who went on to play in the major leagues for the Boston Red Sox, won a World Series, still lives in Wilmington, great guy. But that team, they had as part of their culture, after every game, they would run the bases. Win, lose, draw, whatever. They would line up as a team at home plate, run to first, come back. First to second, come back. First, second, third, come back. And then all the way around. And it was amazing to see this group of high school students dedicated to running the bases after a game. Doesn't matter if it was extra innings, if it was 10 o'clock at night, whatever. If it was, raining, and they were going to run the bases. And so that was a part of the team identity. It was a part of the organizational culture of that team. People like us do things like this. They won 2 state championships, right? And it's interesting, by the time I got there to play a few years later, a new coach had come in and the culture had changed. We didn't run the bases after every game. And needless to say, we didn't win any state championships. Not that they're correlated, but I think the point is the organization has to understand its identity. You have to understand the values. Now, here's what I would tell you all individually. You all have individual values. This is how you think, what you think, how you interact with people, the belief systems that you have, etc. You've got to be very mindful that your individual values and your corporate values are not in massive conflict. You always run into a problem when you've got somebody who has a certain individual value that does not align with a corporate value. If the person chooses the individual value over the corporate value, there is no integrity, right? Ultimately, the identity of the individual overrides the identity of the culture. So when you're part of a team, you have to take on the team identity. It doesn't mean that you sacrifice your personal values, but it means that the team values are what drive the process. If you get to a point where there's a conflict there, you've got to ask yourself, maybe I'm on the wrong team. Maybe I can't be a part of this team anymore. You have a lot of relationships where people don't share the same values as the company, but they stick around to get a paycheck. They stick around because they can, I guess, and they can kind of limp through in an inconsistent environment where their values aren't shared, they're not really part of the team, and you will have a terrible, terrible environment, a terrible work-life balance, It will not work, period. And I would argue that there is a massive amount of people in our country, in the Western world, who are on teams that they truly don't value. They're just there for a paycheck, which is why organizational culture is rampant and upside down in our world today. And corporations are can be very demanding of this is how this works, and you have to, but people aren't willing to stand up and walk away because they got to have a paycheck, right? So they kind of limp along, they sacrifice their own value system, and they give part of their identity away, and that is a problem. That is a problem. So we have to have a healthy understanding of our own personal values as well as our corporate values. And we have to make sure there's enough agreement and alignment there so that we can truly be ourselves in our career. That's the way it should work. You be yourself fully inside of a company where you can honor and express those values. And that's when you have a vibrant corporate team made up of many individuals with a shared value system. And that is really when you begin to see teamwork grow. So if there's a problem with teamwork, it could be a missing understanding of shared values. And so this is what Maxwell says here. He says values are the glue. When things get tough, the corporate value is kind of what holds us together. So values and an understanding of those values is a thing that can keep us held together. Values also create a foundation. There's something to build on. We have to have a corporate value in order to go vertical. That's the foundation. Corporate values are also a ruler. This is a standard of excellence. If we have a way that we teach tours, if we have a way that we teach front end, if we have a way that we teach follow up, that is the value, that is the standard, period, end of story. And if we have, hey, we show up here at 9 o'clock. Hey, we come prepared. We don't trickle in. We follow up with customers within 24 hours. These values have to be the driving force of the team culture. And what happens is if you have one teammate who's playing by the value system, and then you have one teammate who's not playing by the value system, it's going to create animosity, it's going to create bad blood, it's going to create difficulty. That's why it is essential for the individual managers at each community to set the value system. And of course, we have the value system here at Red Earth, which I'm getting ready to read. But the values are the ruler. They're the measuring stick, right? And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Here's a great problem that I had at my old career. They used to say, we wear a tie to work every day. That was kind of one of their values, right? Well, guess what? Our manager didn't wear a tie. And he would chew us out for not having a tie on. And I would fight the system. I said, bro, you cannot demand that I have a tie if you're unwilling to live by the same value system. And he would say, well, the rules are different for me. Oh, okay, cool. Well, we're not a team then. Period, end of story. And so there's a problem, and that's a great example. So whatever the value is, it has to be shared among all members, and everybody has to buy into that. That's why it's important for us to create a value system, understand it so that we can all buy into the identity. The last thing, he has two more things. He says that values are a compass. One of the things about values is they give us a direction. You don't know what to do today? Guess what? Show up, come to work, make phone calls, follow up with clients, call on new connections, contacts, go see some brokers, get out in the community, go see some of our former or current residents, former customers. Guys, values drive everything. When things are difficult, oh, we don't have products to sell. Oh, we don't have this. Well, guess what? What are your core values? What do you get up and do every day? What are your consistent things that people like us do? And you got to go do that. And lastly, values are a magnet. When you live by a strong value system, it ends up attracting like-minded people. If you have a great work ethic and the culture is work hard, play hard kind of thing, lazy people will not want to be a part of your organization. If you build a strong culture and value system, people will want to flock to that. And so values and this identity becomes a magnet. Think of massive companies that have done this in culture. You know, there's one here in Wilmington called Live Oak Bank that has an incredible corporate identity. You know, you go throughout the building and there's refrigerators stocked with any kind of beverage you want. There's food on the counter. You can have whatever. There's a weight room over here. They've got an in-house cafeteria that has incredible made-to-order food, coffee bars, a lot of glass, open space. I mean, it's just incredible, the company culture there, and it's magnetic. People have been moving here from all over the country to be a part of this organization because they built an incredible culture built on certain values. People like us do things like this. If you don't have a value system at these individual organizations, at these individual communities, start building it, start putting it down, and start holding folks accountable to it. So that being said, the last thing I want to do is I want to read through the mission statement here at Red Earth and make sure that we are very clear on what the mission statement is, what the values we hold here, and then the individual managers at each community and you as the individual, ask yourself if you hold to these values in this mission statement. So the mission statement of Red Earth Marketing is to be an industry leader in the support and representation of new home builders and developers. Industry leader, okay? Now that's not mediocre, right? It's not bottom of the barrel. An industry leader in the support and representation of new home builders and developers. Not general brokerage, right? New home builders and developers. Along with that comes the challenges of new home building and development. So it's part of the culture to deal with undeveloped property, difficult road situations, whatever, new properties opening up. That's just part of the culture that we live with, okay? Next piece, to strive to meet or exceed our clients' financial objectives by delivering maximum profitability and absorption rates by installing and operating within our proprietary systems, workflows, processes, groundbreaking marketing idea generation, which leads to maximum lead, tour, and sale conversion rates. That is the commitment of Red Earth Marketing on the back end, to lead to maximum lead generation, tour, and sale conversion rates, right? There's processes that have been put in play, proprietary systems, workflows, etc., to make certain that that happens, okay? So if you're not getting maximum lead, tour, sale, conversion generation, are you following the processes, right? Are you walking it out? Are you working it out? To operate as a company with a team member enjoyment and professional growth as a priority. That is why we do this every Tuesday. To invest in the enjoyment, happiness, education, and overall well-being of our team members. I know for me personally, anytime any one of our team members has called me, I have called them right back or been available right then. Anytime they have texted me, I have been right there available to reach back out to them because I embrace this value of investing in the enjoyment, happiness, education, and well-being of those who are on the team, right? It's part of what we do here, okay? I can't make people reach out. I can't make people jump on these calls, but that is what I do, this commitment every single week over the last 18 months or so to be here for you guys. To create and leave a legacy company that exists and prospers beyond our initial principal group. A company where our team members, vendors, and customers remember and refer us for years to come. That is creating a legacy culture here where Red Earth becomes the name brand in new home construction and new home sales and development. And so I wanted to read that for anybody jumping on the team new or for anyone who's on the team to go back and ask, am I bought into the value system of this company? Do I embody the value system of this company? Am I living out the value system of this company? And that is something that the team must do in order to be a team and come together as a team. And this is the law of identity. People like us do things like this. So that wraps it up for today's call. As always, reach out. Let's connect. Thank you guys for being here. We'll be back next week with another law of teamwork.